Good evening, and I welcome you to your transformative program, Politics and Beyond. It is always a delight to come your way every Monday at 8 p.m. And the reason is that this is an opportunity that I always look forward to because we have the platform to discuss a common interest, and that has to do with Ghana. And not just Ghana now, but most importantly for me is the future of Ghana, because it is all about the next generation. What impact are we making sure that we put in place for them to come in and build upon? And that is what Politics and Beyond is all about. I am your regular host, Emmanuel Jr., the Chief Crusader Against Corruption here in Ghana. And as always, you get opportunity of, interacting with us using our social media platforms that we have, or the handles that we have on the screen, and most importantly, the WhatsApp line that will also be exhibited on the screen. Share your comments, as we always do, on the topic that we are going to discuss. Share your views, your questions, and as I have always been doing for you, at the appropriate time, we'll get engaging, and questions that needs to be answered by our resource person, he will surely do that for you. This year, we've been talking about the Ghana we want, the Ghana we deserve, the Ghana we need. And that is what we've been doing over this past period. And the reason why we've been doing this consistently is just because, as I keep telling you, governance is a serious business. Governance is not about which political party has won or which political party has lost. Governance is a serious business because whatever happens within that process or period, it is something significant that can do. Transforming a nation, and not just celebrating because a political party has won or a political party has lost and so I'm crying. That is not what it is all about. This evening, before we go for a quick break and come back, I just want to introduce you to the topic that we are going to discuss, and then when we come back, I'm going to introduce to you the guest who is going to help us digest and understand what we are dealing with. We are talking about the Ghana we all deserve. Last week, we looked at the Ghana that we deserve. Today, we are looking at the Ghana that we all want. It is all in the same spirit. But this time, our focus is going to be on the local governance system. And that is what we are going to look at. We are going to look at the local governance structure and the system that we have in this country, whether or not we even understand the system, whether or not we are allowing the system to operate the way it ought to operate. That is the most important thing. And again, because we are in the period where most individuals are knocking at doors, lobbying for MCE, DCE positions and all that, we also want to look at it a bit and to find out whether or not most of these individuals who are yearning to hold such positions, whether or not they even appreciate the role that they are looking for. What are we expecting from that office? We'll take a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll zoom right into conversations. Stay tuned.
Welcome to the Royal Dazzle Event Center. With a lush and well-maintained lawn and garden, you are assured of the best serene and comfortable atmosphere to organize all your family and social events. Live the royal moments here with friends and family. The hosting capacity of 600 to 800 people makes Royal Dazzle the most versatile of places to host weddings, parties, funerals, conferences, concerts, and many more. Create your memories with us. Call us for inquiries on 055-814-8585 or 024-620-2144, or pass by and speak to any of our friendly staff. Locate us at My John, close to Zoom Lion headquarters. Royal Dazzle Event Center, creating memories. The average human body mass should have at least 60% water for optimal performance in any physical or mental exercise. We can help you maintain it naturally. Natural mineral water. Simply natural. For bulk purchase, call 0596 273 546 or 0596 273 547. This advert is FDA approved.
Thank you for keeping faith with us, and I welcome you back to your transformative program, Politics and Beyond. I'm still your host, Emmanuel Jr., and this evening, as I indicated earlier, we are going to have a conversation, or just as someone would describe this platform, we are going to have the education that we've always been given. But this time, the focus is going to be on the local governance system. How well do you know about the local governance system that we have in this country? How relevant do you see it? Is it a structure? Is it something that you've just been hearing of it? Or it is something that you are practically, benefiting and seeing in your life? This evening, we have no better person to help us have this conversation than the guest we have this evening. When he agreed to come on the platform, I felt so delighted because not only because I know him as a person, but it is also because I know his depth of knowledge when it comes to local governance. And I believe strongly that my viewers, that is you, will benefit and enjoy the concept of local governance as we're going to have this evening. I'm talking about the director for the Institute of Local Governance Studies in Ghana, and I'm making reference to Professor Nicholas Awatri. Prof, welcome to Politics and Beyond.
Thank you very much. Thanks for welcoming me.
It's such a privilege to have you, and we are so honored to have you. Doc, quickly, before we go into the main conversation, Institute of Local Governance Studies, what is it about?
Yeah, Institute of Local Government Studies.
Right,
yes, it's a public institution established by an Act of Parliament. In fact, the whole idea came in 1999. That's when the idea of establishing that institute came, as a result of the need to build capacity of staff and people who work at the subnational level. When we started our decentralization, there was an idea to build the capacity of people. And so that institute was established as a small project at the Ministry of Local Government at that time. And then, after a period of time, it built its own capacity, and then the idea was to institutionalize training models and the process. And so in 2003, an Act of Parliament was enacted to give this institution the legal backing that it ought to be. And it's responsible for training of all those who work at the subnational level. And when we talk about subnational level, those are the AMDs, the RCCs, the Regional Coordinating Councils, and then the municipalities and the districts. And then any other person who is interested in working at a subnational level.
Okay.
So that is the institute. And with time, by 2008, we started, adding academic programs, and we were affiliated to the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology to, mount degree programs. And since then, we have been, delivering about 8. So now we have about 12 master's degree programs.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That's interesting.
And
12.
Yes, and very soon we'll become a university of local governance and development. In fact, the law was nearly passed. We went almost to the consideration stage.
Okay.
And then Parliament could not pass it until until the term ended. And then the minister has indicated strongly that he's going to, take the bill back to Parliament to consider it. So we hopefully by March, April, we will become a university purposely for training sub-national. And we are talking about 36 to 40,000 local government officers, the bureaucrats, people who work at the districts as a local government service staff, talking about 36,000 people. Then we have about roughly 10,000 political functionaries. That is about 9,300 assembly members, both elected and appointed. And then we have about 261 mayors. And then we have about 36,000 unique committees. So we have a whole lot of people who work at the sub-national level whose capacity needs to be developed. In the past, people think people who work at the sub-national level don't have capacity at all. And
That's
then
right.
people always try to, undermine them that they do not have what it takes. We recently did a study by looking at the capacity in terms of educational background of all those who work at the sub-national level, especially the assembly members. And we were surprised that at least 55% of them have tertiary education.
Oh, that's impressive.
Yes, massive.
55%.
Yes, 55%
That's really impressive.
have
Right.
secondary and have either been to diploma or have first degree. Some of them even have PhDs assembly members. So the whole idea that those who work at the sub-national level or the assembly members don't know anything, it's just that, knowing something or having the knowledge and having the attitude to do it.
Yeah.
So that's where the challenge is. And so basically that's what the institute is all about.
That's a great one.
Yes.
And I'm so interested in the assembly members in particular. We'll get to that very soon. But we are talking about local governments. We have the national government system.
Yes.
The local government system.
Yeah.
And most often, individuals are so interested in the national government system.
Yeah.
When we talk of local government, what are we talking about?
So local government is the second tier of government. It's an institution that is established at the sub-national level to work for the people and to bring government and governance closer to where the people live and to be responsible for providing basic services. Local government is established purely on the basis of what is called subsidiarity principle.
Right.
That means basically what ought to be done at the local level have to be done at the local level. In other words, social problems need to be solved from bottom up. Local problems, local solutions. Until or unless there's a convincing argument that a central agency or a higher level authority is needed to solve local problems. So local government basically means an institution established to provide services and to solve local problems that is at the local level.
That's right.
Basically,
That's all about
yes.
it. Most often, Ghana's problem, as we keep talking about, the development problem, is that we are always looking at the up-down approach instead of the down-up approach. You just indicated that local government, the simple way to present it is where we are looking at social policies and social development interventions, but this time the approach is from the bottom to the top.
Yes.
We started local government system, let's say this Fourth Republic. Can someone be confident to describe it as a failure? Looking at where we are now.
I wouldn't call it a failure. It has huge challenges to deal with. Local government started so many years ago, even before independence. We have practiced different forms of it until the Fourth Republic, where from the 1988 reforms that started, we just shifted everything into the Fourth Republic Constitution with its challenges and opportunities. It has worked to a large extent to bring government closer to where people live. I mean, if you compare 88, 92, the number of people per a local government unit, it was huge. We're talking about 120, 130,000, 140,000, huge. We had only 110 districts. Today we have 261.
Right.
But of course, the population has increased. But if you look at the number of people per municipality, it's lower than it used to be 5 years, 10 years, 10 years ago. So what it means is that government is closer, because the moment you create a local government unit, you elect an assembly person there, you bring a government official there, services all come there. Municipal chief executive. So government, which in the past was far away from you, is now brought closer, because the distance between you and your government is closer. So government has functions to perform. Services, education, health, sanitation. So it also brings government closer. Now the challenge is that as we create more local government, and the idea is that we are bringing government closer, we succeed in that, but the services don't come. Why? Because money or resources that are needed for the local government to work don't follow. So you have a situation where local governments are given unfunded mandates. And if you give someone unfunded mandates, surely this institution is going to fail. So when it comes to services being closer to us, it is not. But government, yes. And so you see, government is closer, but the services that government is supposed to provide is a bit distant. Why? Because money, the resources that they need. But if you compare that also before 92, when the Constitution made provision for 5% of the common fund, to be given to local government to share. Before that time, we didn't have any dedicated money for local government or for the districts.
Right.
And so normally what happens is that at the end, towards the end of the year, when the ministry or the local government hadn't used its budget, then they quickly mobilize that and then distribute among the local the assemblies. Today, we have the Constitution, which mandates government to transfer 5% of the national revenue to the local government. So that is a huge one. Right. And with that, we are seeing infrastructure, a few places developing as a result of the 5%, which wasn't there before the 2. But it has also transferred a lot of responsibilities. In fact, if you look at the responsibility between the central government and the local government, local government have more responsibilities. Of course, in terms of money, you can say about 90% or more than 90% of the national revenue, everything that we spend is at the center. Right. So you have 261 local government that controls or manages less than even 7% of the total national revenue. Why? You have a common fund that is 5%, but only 50% of that common fund transfers are transferred to local government. So that is about 2.5% of that. Right. Because we have a lot of retention at the center and MPs and all sorts of things. Then you have D parts, which is donor money plus part of DACF, also added to that, will be about 2%. And then the Assembly's own IGF.
Good.
If you put the Assembly's 261 MMDAs, their IGF is less than sometimes 1%, at times 1.5% of the national revenue generation. So it's insignificant. So if you put everything together, Assemblies control or manages less than, say, 7 or 8% of the national revenue, yet they are responsible for the goods and services that you and I need. For basic services, healthcare, education, sanitation and solid waste, and yet the money is retained at the center. Now, that is a challenge of this country, and it's a tragedy. If we really want to solve the challenges that the country faces, attention must be given to local governments. Local government must work and must be supported to work. Otherwise, look, we will go in circles and we will be where we are.
Can it be? And I'm interested you brought in the IGF because I was coming to that. That's the internally generated funds. You mentioned that less than 2%.
Yeah.
From the total of the 261
yes.
MMD offices that we have.
Put the
IGF together.
Yeah, revenue collect. It's less than 2% of the national revenue. So the national revenue that we get.
So it brings me to the question, as I said I was coming to. Is it that we are having local governments or we are having individuals leading our districts who have failed to think outside the box? Because, for instance, you go to some communities, and today I was just having a conversation with myself, and I'm like, if you are the one heading a place like AMA, with all the properties and the businesses we have under AMA,
yes,
why should AMA depend heavily on the central government?
Absolutely. Property rates alone, if they collect, should form substantial parts of their revenue.
Exactly.
I mean, South Africa, for instance, local governments, the municipalities, total their IGF is about 90% or 95%
Exactly.
property rates.
Sure.
In Europe, municipalities depend on property rates.
That's right.
Here, the only few municipalities or metros can survive without central government transfer. Tema is doing very well. Part of AMA, it used to be AMA, but not
now.
Yes. Most of them, their IGF is about, say, 50-60% of their total expenditure, which means that without a central government, they cannot.
They cannot, yeah.
So the agency or the sense of agency to mobilize or to deliver, otherwise we perish, is not there. And when you mention the issue of leadership,
right,
it's partly the problem. You see, when you have leaders appointed instead of elected by the people, there's little pressure on them.
That's right.
You expect that accountability must be downward. If there's downward accountability, you know that at the end of your 4-year term, you will go back to the people and demand or ask them to vote for you again. MDCs don't have that pressure on them to deliver. As long as they can appease or they can work to satisfy the Jubilee House or the presidents that appoint them, there's no pressure on them to deliver. Unlike members of parliament, who will have to promise, and of course, when they come to power, they must deliver some of their promises. Otherwise, they are kicked out. And that is why we have very high turnover members of parliament. There's always pressure on them. For DCEs, they promise nothing and they deliver very little. Because they haven't promised you.
That's right, anything.
Yes, they haven't promised you. They haven't come to campaign that give me your mandates. Give me A, B, C, D, and when I come, I will do.
That's right.
This. So I think one of the things we need to do is move towards the election of MDCs. I think it will be a game changer. As long as MDCs continue to be appointed, I think we will not have the nation that we all want.
Prof, that's really another interesting thing. You see, the issue of MMDCs being appointed or being elected.
Yeah.
There's these two school of thoughts. One says we should elect. In fact, both are saying we should elect them.
We should elect, yes.
But the difference is that one says we should elect them on a partisan line. Another one says we shouldn't elect them on a partisan line.
Yes.
Now, you have made it clear that the reason why it is sometimes difficult for the local leaders, if I should put it that way, to effectively work is simply because they don't feel like they are accountable to the people.
Yes.
You know, the MPs really feel that they are accountable to the people. And so you can
and
have
the presidency, yes.
Yes. You know, so, and the presidency, you know,
Yes.
so which one do you think would be appropriate? Electing MMDCs on a partisan line or electing MMDCs but not on a partisan line?
Okay, good. So there are differences, and I think the two political parties have also said that. And if you go to the rationale behind that, you know, you can't justify any of them, partisan or non-partisan. But if you step back and say, what has been the experience globally? Globally, the system has been that multi-party democracy has been the most, let's say, effective or the most widely practiced mode of electing leaders. And if you look at studies in Europe, Africa, Asia, it has been unpartisan. Countries that practice multi-party democracy, there's a high tendency that it filters through from the center to the local. Except few countries, Pakistan, Malaysia, some parts of Canada, that local governments are non-partisan. Yes, these are the countries. Pakistan, Malaysia, some parts of Canada, where local government systems are non-partisan. Yes. So if you look at it in terms of what is widely practiced, it is the multi-party that filters down to the local level.
Right.
In the survey that was done by CDD, Ghanaians said that they want elections to be conducted at the local level, but on non-partisan, about 77% on non-partisan. And Ghanaians have that feeling that non-partisan system divides people. There's too much violence. There's too much money crazy. There's too much waste, you know, in the local government system. But we haven't practiced the alternative. We have practiced the non-partisan. But we all know that at the local level, even the assembly members is partisan.
Very.
I mean, in fact, the last election, the parties conducted primaries, even at the assembly level.
I agree. I witnessed some. Yeah, yes. I did.
So the concern is that I think once people get to understand and you explain it, for instance, last year, or the last 2 years, we decided to test this idea. That is it because people don't understand the partisan and non-partisan, the benefits and other things. And so we decided to organize, you know, a survey. So, and we made a point at the National House of Chiefs, because you remember during the referendum, the National House of Chiefs kicked against the referendum in terms of
yes.
So we went there and we made the arguments. First, asked the National House of Chiefs to answer a few questions to amend Article 55.3, which is where the partisan or non-partisan issues come in, and then the 243. And so we asked them, and immediately they answered non-partisan. I think majority wanted non-partisan. And then I made the argument, and I showed, after we have collected their results, then I made the argument showing the pro and cons of partisan and non-partisan, and then showed what appeared in the world and all over the countries. And then asked the same questions again. The same question, whether to amend partisan or non-partisan. This time it shifted. So the issue is that once people begin to understand why partisan or non-partisan, the pro and cons, and they appreciate the challenges, they shift or they change. But given that majority of Ghanaians, you know, are calling for non-partisan, what I have seen in public policy is that you will always not get the first option or the first best option. sometimes you go for second best option.
Right.
Try it.
Yeah.
And then come back and learn from it.
Exactly.
So for us, and for us in the local government, and that's from academic point of view, look, if we agree and both political parties agree to elect DCs, I think we should go for it. We should take it because we have never had the experience in our local government system since this nation state was created,
right,
where mayors are elected directly by the people.
That's true.
So if we have that opportunity, we should grab it. Even if it's non-partisan, let's grab it. And now
we can build on it.
Cheaper.
That's right.
Doesn't require referendum.
Exactly.
It is only 2/3 majority in parliament to amend Article 2431. And now with a majority.
Yeah.
So NDC has majority in parliament and can easily do, amend this so that we have election of NDCs. We go for it. It will be chaotic, with it because you have every Tom and Harry saying that you can become a mayor.
Exactly.
Even now with the government appointment. Last time there was a father, mother, and
I think it was somewhere in the northern part or so.
Exactly.
Father, mother, brother, sister. I think about 5 coming from the same family.
And I even understand, even this time, there were places where about 20 people, applied to be, a DC.
That's right.
So if we leave it like that, we are likely to have 20 or 30 people applying or contesting. Now, would there be a way we can sieve it? And this is where I think there have been a number of options proposed. You remember the Constitutional Review Commission also made a number of recommendations on how we should. And all of these things, we must look at them. But I personally believe that we should elect our mayors. People should elect their mayors directly. There's a proposal that, in the cities or the metropolitan areas, people should elect. That is the CRC.
Exactly. Yes.
People should elect. In the municipalities, the government must propose number of 3 people, a number of people, and then people will elect on it. And then at the district level, which is the many of the rural areas, government should continue to appoint. But the white paper, rejected many of these and proposed that the government must nominate 5 people, of which the Public Service Commission will interview, and then 3 out of these 5 will contest, and people will vote on them. I think why are we making it complicated? I think we shouldn't make it complicated.
We shouldn't make it complicated.
We shouldn't make it complicated.
Right.
Let's go and elect this series. And not only that, there are a number of reforms that we need to do after electing mayors. If we elect mayors and we don't reform our fiscal system, we don't reform our administrative setup, we are preparing them to fail as well. They will come, they will be frustrated. One of the challenges we face in our local government system is also staff.
Very well.
We have a situation where the staff and all those who work there are accountable to the center. The center hires them. The center pays them. The center transfers them. And it's the center that fires them.
Yeah.
So what it means is that you have externalized the whole of your human resource to an outsider. So the loyalty, the sense of urgency at the local level is weak. We have a situation where some staff feel not accountable to the assembly. We have a situation where DCs sometimes are frustrated. Because the assembly itself cannot hire and fire. Of course, they don't. I mean, they can only hire their
own, just a few,
and they are not the professional staff.
Exactly.
But if we don't reform the system to make assemblies, the district assemblies themselves, be able to hire and fire, and able to determine the number of people they need and for what areas, and the center continues to be responsible for the staff who work there.
Yeah.
We will elect DCs, and they will come and face people who are not loyal to the assembly.
That's right.
So there's a whole lot of reforms. The money side need to be reformed. The people side need to be reformed. The leadership side need to be reformed. And if we put all this together, then I can understand why we need a big bank. Because, you see, decentralization, which is at the heart of local government, is something that nobody wants. People are interested in talking about it. But if we ask them that we are going to decentralize, then they push back.
It's just because they want to hold power. Hold on to power.
Not
that has
power.
been,
Hold on to power,
resources,
hold on to resources and influence.
That's right.
And influence.
So we pretend to be practicing decentralization in this country, but unfortunately we do not.
In fact, we pretend to be practicing decentralization. Yeah. And so we make 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or sometimes people say even 2 steps backward.
That's right.
I mean, people have come to learn. Recently, Ugandans came. You know, Uganda came to learn from us our decentralization.
Right. Yeah, that was recently, not long ago. Yes,
long ago. They came. And then when we presented to them our decentralization, what we've been doing, and the policies and the practice, and then they were looking at us. Then they said, but this was exactly what you said 15, 20 years ago when we came here. It's the same thing. Zimbabwe's came, the same thing. And they were shocked that Ghana's democracy, local governance democracy, is such a shame. Because even in Zimbabwe, they elect their mayors. And they have control. They hire and fire their staff. Yet in the Constitution, it's clear. The Constitution made provision that people who work at the local government must be accountable to that local institution.
That's true.
But no, everybody is accountable to the center.
To the center.
And that is a major accountability failure. Is huge in our local governance system, financial-wise, human. So it's called for a total reform.
I agree. Prof, I agree. I am coming back for us to delve a bit more, but there's just 1 or 2 contributions that have come, which is of interest, and I want us to tie it in. And this is coming from Dr. Daniel Appiah from the University of Ghana. He says, elections of MMDCs. What has been the experience in Canada and USA? Why did these countries practice non-partisan election of mayors and local councillors for over 2 centuries? Were they less democratic? Is there evidence to show that countries that practice partisan election of local councillors are more effective and efficient than those local governments in US and Canada where non-partisan elections are still practiced?
Well, it's not correct that US there's non-partisan. You see, the US has 2 levels of local government system. They have a very interesting system. We have the all-purpose local government, the counties, the municipalities, the towns, that they elect local governments. And we have the partisan as well. Then you have the single purpose, so the education district, the police districts, that is non-partisan. In Canada, the non-partisan local government system, it's in some what do you call it, the federal, some of the states or the provinces. But they allow local parties that have no affiliation to the center. So it's a localized thing. Once they finish it, it's gone. Now, to ask whether non-partisan or partisan makes a difference, in the outcome. Well, there are 2 issues here. So you have the process. The process can make a difference, and the outcome can also make a difference. There is no indication at this moment that multi-party democracy is delivering more than a one-party democracy. Like what we have in China. China's development is huge. China has removed more people from poverty than any country in the world. But it's not practicing multi-party democracy. It's a single party.
That's right.
And you have US, or you have all the other countries that are practicing multi-party democracy on partisan.
Yeah.
That are also not delivering.
That's right.
In fact, we have democracy deficit at this moment, and so it is not that the process will lead to the outcome. However, people need participation.
Sure.
You see, participation is the right of the people, irrespective of what comes out of it. So if people participate, they feel that they have been part of that process. So if it is organization of elections on partisan, for instance, and I'll give you an example. If you compare our national level election and our local government election, the national level is partisan, and you will see the parties using their structures to mobilize participation.
That's right.
You have a situation where voter turnout in national elections could go to 75%, or sometimes 80%. In local government, where it is non-partisan, we have maintained less than 40% since.
That's true.
The first time we went beyond 40% was the first election, I think that was 94. Yes. Since then,
it has always been.
That's always been. That's, I think, 89 or so.
Right.
Since then, it has always been less than 40%. People show, in fact, there are some places where we even struggle to get people to contest local government elections. But when it is partisan, of course, you know, they use the party systems to mobilize. So, in other words, you can say that the process has endeared, you know, people to participate. Sure. Now, whether people are happy with that outcome is another thing. And I am not saying that, you know, participation would necessarily lead to better outcomes. Otherwise, we will not be seeing what is happening in China, where it's a single party system, but it's delivered. I think what needs to be done is both the process, if, you know, democracy must, you know, come out from people's ability to change certain things and to be able to elect their leader and to be, and we shouldn't be following, you know, one trajectory or one approach.
That's right.
We have started democracy up until now, and we should be able to vary it. But what I have seen is that there hasn't been any tested and a better approach in terms of organization of people through than through the political party system. It's enable people to mobilize and participate. But obviously, I'm not going to say that there's a one-to-one correlation between partisan
and non-partisan elections.
Yes.
The other thing I want us to look at briefly before we go to another area, which is the functions, the core functions, is competence.
Yeah.
I want us to look at competence. And I keep asking myself, for instance, today there was this debate on one radio station where someone was raising an issue of assembly members asking the government to pay them.
Yeah.
And I was actually wondering if indeed we have true and proper decentralization system. These individuals should be able to pay themselves through internally generated funds. And it should be very easy to be done. Why do you have to wait for the central government? But just like you said, or we've agreed on this platform that we are pretending to be decentralizing, but unfortunately we are not. And so the top pretend, just like His Excellency Kufuor once said, government pretends to be paying, workers are also pretending to be working. And that is what is happening. So we are pretending to be decentralizing, and then those leading the local government system are also pretending to be implementing the local government system. But we are going to look at the issue of competence.
Yes.
Who or what should we look out for, or which individuals qualify, knowing very well that this issue of local government is very, very crucial when it comes to our development. We just need not leave it into the hands of anyone, just like anyone. There's this message that comes in line with that. It says that I am of the opinion that we have to elect MMDC so they can become accountable to the voters. And that is what you said earlier. As the assembly members, over the past 24 years, working with the assemblies, the allegiance of the MC is to the appointing authority and not the citizens. That is true. This one says that there's no target set, there's no KPI. You know, it is business as usual. How do we expect that they will move on? Another one says, unfortunately, we can't have competence as it has been used as jobs for party and constituency executives who are of the opinion that the appointments are for working hard for the party. And so you can imagine MC sleeping at a meeting that she herself has conveyed. I don't know where this one happened. But before I come to you to respond to that question, there's this one that came earlier. It says that, and this is coming from Akwesi Adu, who is also watching, a very good friend of mine. He says, Chief, how are we expecting the local government to turn effectively when we have made MMDCs deputies of MPs? In most cases, the MPs aligned to the ruling party. The MPs aligned to the ruling party has a big say in who becomes a DC. And these MMDCs are mostly remote controlled by the MPs. So, coming to the question, competence. What should we look out for? Fortunately, I have been a bit closer to the processes, right from His Excellency Kufuor's era, His Excellency Atta Mills, the first John Mahamed's administration, Akufo-Addo's administration, and even now. And I can tell you on authority, Prof, and I know you know this, when individuals who are being shortlisted for these positions, among the criteria, about 60% of it should be your commitment to the party. Just the remaining 40 is shared among your competence, your whatever, but 60%, the reason why you are qualified, 60%, is on how committed you've been to the party and how you have contributed to the elections, or how you have, shown yourself so much. Worst off is they getting most of the approval coming from the member of parliament, just like Akwesi Adu indicated. So you can be competent, you can be whatever, but that is not really the key. The key is whether you have the blessing of your member of parliament, whether you are so committed to the party, you were able to produce some T-shirts, you shouted the loudest, that kind of thing. Can it also be a reason why we are lacking? As in, we seem to be centralizing, for better words, short of words, we seem to be centralizing the qualified human resource at the top, and the local, which is really the foundation, we allow anyone to just occupy.
Look, politics play a major role in who becomes the member, let's say, the DC. Whether we elect them or we appoint them, politics will definitely play an important role.
That's right.
And since we organize local level elections, or we organize our democracy through partisan, definitely party loyalty, party's allegiance and affiliation will come in terms of who becomes MC, whether appointed or elected.
That's right.
But is it possible to have party loyalists, and at the same time, party, at the same time, competent
people?
Yes. I was saying that in a constituency, there are not many people with a competence and at the same time being loyal to the party. You will have.
That's right.
But that process has to be done in a way that you merge, competence with party loyalty.
That's right.
Currently, the process is ongoing. But if all you have to become a DC is being a polling agent or polling or a constituency, something.
That's right.
Then perhaps you don't have what it takes, because the work of municipal chief executive is huge. Listen, don't let us underestimate the work, what it takes to manage a municipality of a population of 150,000 people.
Sure.
Look, for me, the work of DCE and the competence that are required for a DCE is more than being a chief executive of state corporation.
I agree. Perfectly agree.
You are managing an area the size of a country in Europe.
That's right.
Some municipalities have an area the size of a country. You are managing a population of 150,000 people with diverse backgrounds.
Yeah.
Their economy is so important to you. The social infrastructure. And all you have on your CV is being a polling agent or being a mobilizer. But no, that is not enough.
That's right.
But obviously, once you come, that is why the institute was, created to provide that sort of capacity building for you. But if you come with that low base, it takes a lot of time.
It becomes very difficult.
And the reason why in Ghana we chose the word chief executive is that they were managing the municipality as corporate, as business. Otherwise, we would have said mayors.
Exactly.
We use the word chief executive, and that is only
it's not a small thing.
Position that is given. Chief executive, it means is you are managing corporations with an eye on value for money, on an eye for some level of development that will be seen. But if all you have, and to be very honest, many of them will not qualify to be CEOs.
Exactly.
So it's a challenge.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying
Yeah.
that we should not consider how loyal these people. After all, if they are not there, if they didn't work, the party wouldn't have come to power.
So then the loyalty should be there. But
Yes.
I don't know if you agree with me, but my position is that that shouldn't constitute a huge percentage.
Agree. And that is why I'm saying that in the constituency or in the municipality, I think people should open their eyes and look for people who have the competence first. Because for our democracy, it's such that if local governments don't deliver, you are out.
You're out. Very true.
If the DCs don't deliver, you are out. I mean, even not only look at the assembly level election. Recently, we were doing some analysis, and you can see clearly the results of the assembly members.
Yes, reflecting
clearly,
directly. Yeah, in the national, it did.
Look,
it did.
And so we cannot underestimate the importance of our local government in national development.
Yeah.
And even government. And so if you stifle local government with money, definitely you will face, because at the end of the day, there are 261, and that is where local development, see, every development is local.
Yeah. Yes.
Every development is local, and people can see it at the local level. And who is responsible for that? The district assemblies. So if you stifle local government and you think that you can't develop local area from the center, definitely not. Definitely not. And that's why I'm happy that currently all the coastal, the development authorities are all now being merged into the local government. Because you cannot manage projects and very important development issues from the center and also from a small secretariat. You need to integrate, and local government is the one that is supposed to provide basic goods and services at the local area. But if you look at it, we are undermining that. And at this moment, clearly, central government is saying that we need to make local government strong.
It's important.
But the central politician is also concerned. You see, this is a political economy issue. If you strengthen the local, it means you are transferring a lot of resources to the local areas.
Yeah.
Resources that are transferred mean resources lost at the center.
That's true.
It's influence lost at the center.
Center. It's power lost.
Power lost at the center. And so central politicians are also uncomfortable to let decentralization work. And so members of parliament, they are the ones to make the laws. They are the ones to transfer resources to them.
Yeah,
they don't.
They don't.
Why? Because MPs don't want powerful mayors behind them, overlooking their shoulders. Oh, wow. Because, you see, democracy, that's
quite interesting.
Yeah, democracy does work at the local level, and it filters. It goes to up to the. I mean, most successful prime ministers or presidents have once been mayors in big cities.
Yeah.
And so we have a situation where, in our case, we are making local government unattractive.
It is, honestly. It
so
is.
In the eyes of residents or citizens, local government has no relationship with us. It has no value. In fact, you can live in a municipality for 2 or 3 years without visiting your municipality.
Very true.
Ask many people.
Very true.
When was the last time they went to their municipality to ask for something?
Very true.
Maybe unless birth certificates, or maybe death certificates, or property or building permits, you hardly will go to your municipality. So there's a distance, and it's worrying. Why? Because you think that they are not providing services for you.
Yeah.
When it comes to, let's say, water,
maybe
you live in Accra, or you live in a you have a borehole in your house. Electricity comes from the private company, so ECG. Maybe education comes from Ghana Education Service, and of course infrastructure is built by local government. And maybe you are taking your child to even a private school or something. Or you hardly get to PTA meeting.
Exactly.
So, look, you can stay in a municipality, and maybe your waste is collected by Abuboya.
That's right. So
local government hardly come to your house to collect property waste for each person there. So you can live in your house for a whole year, 2 years, without interacting with your local government. You don't even know your assembly member.
Very true.
However, if they were to be working and to be pushing you, and you also be pushing them, I want the street light fixed in my area, and I'm paying for the street, the light bill, I'm paying for all of this, and I'm not getting services. You go to your assembly member, you put your assembly member on his toes. He comes to the assembly and reports that I don't have drainage in this community. But assembly member is frustrated. In the first place, assembly member is supposed to meet the residents. Before general assembly meeting, assembly member has to meet the residents, interact with them, know their problems, collect their concerns, and go to the assembly and report what their residents are saying. And then afterwards, come back to the assembly and report, come back to the community and report what has happened. They don't do it. Why? Because they don't have any money. And that is why I'm happy that both political parties in their manifesto promise this time to find money for assembly
members. Right.
So the NDC has promised to pay assembly members monthly allowance from the consolidated. And I think they have to. But of course, it means the law will have to change in the act. We need to change it to make it possible. But if we really want assembly members to function, their allowances for movement, organizing, should be given. Although globally, assembly members or councillors are not paid. They also get allowances. And so it's been that pattern, but the allowances must be sufficient. I mean, if we pay 500, if you pay the minimum wage, which is 300 cedis or so a month, we have about 9,000 assembly members. So that would be what 2.7 million or
exactly thereabouts.
I think that would be around that amount, isn't it? It's So I think government can do it. I think it's possible for that government to be able to provide the money.
The money for that.
Yes.
You know, I agree. Prof, to add to what you said earlier,
Yes.
so that my viewers will appreciate it when Prof said that some of the DCEs are actually managing a population which is like a country elsewhere. So if you're talking about district chief executive,
yes.
it means that you have a population of between 75,000
Yes.
and 95,000
Yes.
individuals.
Yes.
When we talk of MC, municipal
Yes.
chief executive,
Yeah.
you have a
75.
population between 95,000 and 250,
50.
between
Yes.
95 and 250.
Yes.
And then if you have a population of over 250,000,
Yes.
then we are talking about a mayor
Metro. Yeah.
or metropolitan. You know, so this is what it means. So if you have a DC, it's not fun. I mean, it's not for fun.
Look, it's not.
DC is someone managing between 75,000 and 95,000 individuals.
Individuals.
You just don't give it to anyone just because the person was the one who was shouting the loudest. When you have MCE who is managing between 95,000 and 250,000, the destinies of these individuals are in the hands of this person.
Yeah.
You just don't give it to one person just because on the ground that person was the one who was able to produce so many t-shirts during a particular period. You know, we are coming straight to the functions, the specific functions. And then with the functions, Prof will talk about it, and then we'll wrap up. But before then, let me quickly go to some of the messages, Prof, that has come. So this one says, good evening, Mr. Wilson. His Excellency John Mahama has forgotten about Metro Mass. They have just increased fares more than 14% just this week, and they must be investigated. Good evening, Mr. Wilson, and your great Prof, for the good work that you guys are doing this evening. Please, Mr. Wilson, tell the leadership. Okay, all right, we'll come there. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. If property rates is taken seriously, we will generate a lot of money. Thank you. And I agree. You know, you didn't add your name. Good evening, sir. How are you? I hope by His grace. Okay, I am proposing that MMDC should be made to do proposals to indicate how they are going to raise internal generated funds to run their districts. Failure to do so, according to their proposals, within 2 years in office, they should be sacked and quickly replaced. If you find this good, kindly forward this to the President or the Minister of Local Government. Okay, you didn't add your name. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Non-partisan may bring out the best capable candidates than following the party's nominated persons. Okay, good evening, Mr. Wilson. The local government staffs are now more than politicians in Ghana. Here, that's why we are seeing what is happening now. I am Christian Ikuamwa from Odome Chala in the Oti region of Ghana. My regards to W1 Wanide. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I would like us to go by voting and selecting our DCs, MDCs, etc., to put checks in the system. This from Reverend Justice Aposaho. Good evening, Mr. Wilson, and to Prof. Awatri. My question is, how many people know that our local government takes critical care of our localities? Because what comes to mind is the central government, that's the president. I think much education needs to be communicated to our various localities, and that's exactly what we are doing. I agree. But I disagree with Prof concerning the elections of MMDCs. The resources that will be used for such purposes can be used for something else. Appointment, I think, is the best because elections might lead to a bad outcome which can incur losses to the country. The only thing needed in this is competency. Thank you. This is Fusaini Mohammed from Sefi. Okay. Mr. Wilson, this is Nathan from Zebila. Why not make the MPs the heads of the local government? Okay. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. Please, how many people do vet their MCs? And what's their criteria for their nomination, and who specifically chairs the committee? as compared to parliamentary vetting. Thanks. My name is Maso Okwatin Oyoko Koforidia. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. This is Solomon Jagri from Kunsu. I am proposing that we revoke of the appointees be listening to MPP. Okay, not so clear. Solo, your message is not so clear. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. The government should be bold enough to sack anyone who is MPP sympathy. Okay, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I'm Tona Kojo Michael from Sawam. Please, His Excellency, have to project Ghana first before party faithfuls, or else. Okay, this one says, good evening, Mr. Wilson, and my greetings to Professor Watri. I am enjoying your Politics and Beyond program. It's very important we start the election process of MMDC so that they can be more accountable to the people. All right, more messages coming. Let me see if I can pick one or two of this one. This one says, Mr. Wilson, okay, he says, Che, Emmanuel, okay. Professor Awatri has spoken my mind, especially on the MP and MMDC choosing and relationships. And this is coming from the chief of Hacho, Ni Anan Ofori Papao Manche. Thank you for doing the watching and also for contributing. This one comes again from Dr. Daniel Apia. He says, I'm satisfied with Prof's response. We should be very cautious about the dividends from partisan democracy. Let's elect MMDCs, but on the path of non-partisanship being demanded by the majority of the citizens. That would be democracy. Thank you. Partisan elections in our country has also become an effective instrument for the mobilization of violence. This is one of the major reasons that makes citizens to push back against the introduction of partisan elections into local governments. Okay. Maybe the last one or two. Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I'm Honorable Philip, an assembly member for Karachi East Municipal Assembly. Come and see my invitation letters for only February and March. It's more than empty. How do we survive without allowance? Please tell His Excellency Muhammad to keep his promise and fear. All right. That's an interesting one. All right. This one says, good evening, Mr. Wilson. And to the good people of Amenfi Central. I want to congratulate Prof for the good work this evening. Okay, good evening, Mr. Host. Please, the assembly members did well during the 2024 elections. We supported JDM because he promised us monthly allowance, and we want to remind him about the promise. Thank you. And this is from Honorable Beidu Aqua, Cape Coast assembly member. Doc, I mean, Prof, these are the some of the messages. Yes. A lot are coming, but we are really running out of. I'm sure you want to respond to some, but for you to respond, I want to add one or two questions. Then you can add it to it. I want us to look at the sections 12 and 13 of the Act 936, which talks about the functions. Yes. There's one that is of interest to me. It talks about education, and that is something that I'm sure most people in the community do not even know. Let me look for it. Okay, sponsoring the education of students from the district to fill particular manpower needs of the district, especially in the social sectors of education and health. Making sure that the sponsorship is fairly and equitably balanced between male and female students. Prof, I have lived, my entire life, especially my adult life, where I got so exposed to current affairs and governance. I have never seen or heard any municipal, not to talk of the others, but specifically this, I have never seen. Sponsoring the education of students from the district. And this is where my interest is, to fill particular manpower needs of the district. Yes, I mean, look, there are some districts whose total IGF, the whole year, is 60,000, is 50,000. In fact, some of them less than 60,000. Right. Total. By the time they buy the fuel and
It's gone. No services. So how do you expect some of these districts to sponsor the human resource needs?
Yeah.
But some of them, they do for, the people who are needy, but bright students who are struggling at the lower level.
Yeah.
But now with free universal basic education, it then must then go to upper level. So sponsoring of people to the university. If you have someone who is extremely intelligent from poor family in the community,
That's right.
then assembly should be able to help them. Some do at the local level, not to say to the university level. It's possible that a few, but if you look at the challenge that assemblies are having, what we are looking at is that once we devolve the human resource, where assemblies can now hire and fire. I know anytime I talk about the assemblies in hiring and fire.
And I agree to that. It's so important.
Yes.
Very, very important.
And it's not that they are going to pay the salaries of the professional staff. No, from their cafes. No.
Yeah.
Central government will dedicate money, block some for human resource. Just like we will set the framework for which assemblies will decide that we need only one plan officer. We don't need a Greek officer because we are efficient, municipality.
Sure.
But we need more, local community officers. We need more fiscal planners. They will determine. But in a situation where everything is determined from the center, and people are paid, listen, the sense of urgency, the reason why the private sector is assumed to be better than government in certain things is because there is an existential threat that if we don't, we will collapse.
We'll collapse, that's true.
At the local government level, if you have a situation where you can externalize your cost to the center and everything, you will never collapse.
There's no sense of urgency, there's nothing.
That is why we need total reform of the local government system. We need that. It's a whole of accountability, the services, the fiscal, the political, all of these need major reforms. And there are a lot of nice ideas coming up. But now, going back to the roles, one important role which we must look at it, it's coming up, but it's not as we wanted, is local economic development.
Very important.
If you look at the functions of local government, it's number two. It says must promote local economic development.
Very true. Yeah.
But anytime you hear about local government, all we are known as services, sanitation, and in fact, sanitation and solid waste. And municipalities spend substantial part of their money in collecting garbage. But the key aspects that people need, jobs, income growth, and that is written here in our local economy. And yet, assemblies don't spend much of their money on local economy to promote jobs. And look, if we are able to promote local economy has become the major issue in everything. If you have job, you can pay your property rate.
Definitely.
If you have job, you can pay the garbage collection. If you have job, you can pay this. But if you don't have jobs, and yet important function like that, in our local government sector, we are all focusing on services. And if you go to Asia, their local governments are looking at economic development, competition. In fact, they're competing to attract investors. Assemblies are competing to attract investors to their local area, because that's where the factor. Service delivery is given, but that is the basic thing that assemblies have to do. But promoting your local economy to ensure that you can export your local economy to another district, to another region, and outside. That is a function.
It was going to be the other main one we are going to look at. But unfortunately, because of time, whether central, local, indeed, the leaders we have, one of the things that brings them to office, whether this current government or previous government, is their promise to generate and create jobs.
Yes.
The local government is one key avenue where jobs can be created so easily.
Absolutely.
So easily.
Yes.
And so I know you're a very busy person, but I will plead on behalf of our viewers that we'll look for another time. And then this time we want to discuss how to create, implement this function.
Yeah.
Creating or making sure that the economy at the local level has been developed,
yes,
packaged. If we are exporting,
yes,
we are importing,
yes,
we are doing whatever we need to do to ensure that we take care of our local individuals.
Yes.
I think it's one thing we need to look at so importantly.
Yes. It's very important. It's very important.
Do that. We have to do that. All too soon, this is where I really wish we'll continue. But as I said, I'm sure we'll look for another time and continue with it. But your very last words within 30 seconds, if you have anything to add.
I think we can make local government work. We need to take bold decisions. And I think that government will and should take those bold decisions, because without local government working, central government is doomed to fail.
That's right. That's very profound. Without local government, central government is absolutely doomed to fail. And it is not for saying sake. There are evidence to show. We should stop pretending to be practicing decentralization, and let us really practice it. Let us make sure that our local government system is working and it is effectively working. We are in the process of electing or appointing MMDCs. Let us have in mind that we are appointing chief executives, as Prof said, chief executives who are going to manage a whole community, locality, some having a population of over 100,000, 250,000. That is very huge. We shouldn't just leave it into the hands of anyone. All too soon, this is where time will allow us. I want to thank my producers for allowing us to go beyond our time. I also want to thank, on behalf of you, our guests. And clearly, there are so many messages coming. I have learned so many things. It is always a pleasure communicating with Prof. Prof, thank you so much for your time.
You are always welcome.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the knowledge. And I believe at the appropriate time, we'll bring Prof again for us to continue with this conversation. My name, as you always know, is Emmanuel, Engineer, the Chief Crusader Against Corruption here in Ghana. Till we meet again next week, same time, 8 p.m. on this platform, TV XYZ, to present to you your favorite show, Politics and Beyond. All I can say for now is good night.